Thank you very much for staying with us on the AM show. Time now for me to share with you my blunt thoughts. And you know how I get incisive. We cut to the bone, right down to the marrow of those very salient issues. And today I've titled my blunt thoughts of growing debt, stranded students, unpaid contractors, and exorbitant periods. The saga continues. Of growing debt, stranded students, unpaid contractors, and exorbitant periods. The saga continues. I'm sure you can tell I'm going to talk a bit about debt, about our stranded students in Morocco, about contractors and whether they have indeed been paid the 41 billion out of the 49 billion and everything that has been said, and how the free fall of our city is affecting, even apart from tax waivers, given the cost of sanitary or hygiene wear for our brothers, in fact, our sisters, just our sisters. You know, Ghana, sometimes when I contemplate our country and where we are, it gives me a lot of food for thought. I think about so many things. This week, I could have discoursed on maybe another 5 or 6 more issues, but I just want to stay here. Come with me. There's a lot to discuss. So we'll start from Ghana's total public debt stock and where we've got to. And it still makes for interesting reading, especially as we are in the grips of an IMF-supported program. So in February 2023, our debt stock stood at 570.8 billion Ghana cedis. 570.8. By the same period in 2024, it had shot up to 658.6 billion. Let's do the math. 30 plus about 58, that gives you about almost 88. It's more like 87.8 billion Ghana cedis that we've added on. But I have a question. When you look at all of these, you would ask certain questions, and that brings me to the contractors bit, which we'll see later. What have we expended these sums of money on? What? And if you see them, share with me as you watch the live feed. The things that you have seen that we've expended these sums of money on. Almost 88 billion, 87.8 billion Ghana cedis. How has it impacted us? I ask those questions because as you pump money into certain projects, they must yield certain returns. And then they pay for themselves over time, and you make gains. That's how development works. What do we see? So if you look at that calculation vis-a-vis our population, then you realize that Ghana's public debt per capita will give you what? What every Ghanaian owes, which then means we're looking at 21,360 cedis and 91 pesos. That's how much I owe as of today. That's how much you owe as of today. That child born today will add to the numbers. And that's what, if we had to pay off our debt, this is what every Ghanaian would have to cough up. How many Ghanaians, especially looking at the level of unemployment and everything, let's even say, how many Ghanaians earn this in 6 months or even a year? There are many people who don't earn this in an entire year in Ghana. So if that's where our debt stock is per capita, it paints a picture. And these are some of the things that I want our leaders to contemplate. Next slide. And then if you go into the external debt situation, the cedi versus dollar issue and the effect of depreciation, you would realize that before the IMF program, it stood at $29.9, and as of February 2024, we're now looking at $30.6 in terms of the cedi dollar ratio. Then you would look progressively. So we have what? 29.9, the equivalent of 327.9 Ghana cedis, and $30.6, now the equivalent of 380 cedis. I do know that there has been some appreciation. Between yesterday, I noticed, from yesterday to today, I noticed some figures. I'm not sure whether that is what you would find everywhere, but there was an instance where about 3-4 days ago, I made an inquiry somewhere and they were pegging the dollar at 15.9, though that is not the official Bank of Ghana rate. Yesterday, I heard something about 14.9. As of this morning, I checked something and saw something around 14.8. I'm not so sure because I still have to check the central bank's figures today and the figures on the street. And sometimes this whole bit about the central bank, we all know that sometimes that is not really what applies out there. Let's face the facts. But these are our realities. If you look at the Ghana cedi year-to-date depreciation, dollar to cedi terms, you would realize that since January 2024, the value of the cedi against the US dollar, what value has been eroded, lost, taken away? 14.6%. That's almost 15% of value wiped off. You know what that does to business, what that does to employment, what that does to the cost of items, including fuel, what that does to the economy. It's a stifling economy. Let's get to the next slide. But then tied to all of what we're talking about, then you would hear Finance Minister Dr. Amin Adam talk about, oh, we are facing some of the pressures on the cedi because of some of the payments we've had to make. Mind you, I spoke about our debt stock and how much had been added year on year from February last year to now. And then that's why we're building a point. Then he talks about, oh, we have paid contractors as of now to date. I think we have spent some 49 billion Ghana cedis. Same time last year, we did 41 billion Ghana cedis, right? So you look at those numbers, then, okay, so part of it is going to contractors. But then there's a curious situation because the contractors themselves have come out. Emmanuel Cherry is CEO of the Ghana Chamber of Construction Industry. And just a few days ago, he said, look, if the minister claims that such an amount of money has been paid to the contractors, then why are contractors not on site? Why have they moved from site? Why are they not working? A few days ago, we had a conversation about some stretches, Akosombo stretch, the Aflao stretch, the Temadawenya stretch, and the complaints. If you watched, you saw for yourself, you heard for yourself, the lamentations of people. Look at those stretches. A truck, major truck, had turned over because of a crater, not a pothole, a crater on one of those portions. We spoke to one of those, I've forgotten his particular designation, but he's in the system. He represents Greater Accra. And he said, yes, I had to put a pinpointed question to him. He admitted the contractor hadn't been paid. So it makes for some stark reading. It's not to say nobody has been paid, but the association is asking, next slide, the association is asking who and who have been paid. And sometimes you know that in this instance, there's some politics in there. So some people from a certain end will get something and some people may not. We know the problems those create, right? So who and who have been paid? I am daring the system, the contractors, all the ministries involved, including the finance ministry. Give us a list. Who has been paid? We want to know who has been paid. So we go to the next issue. And today I'm talking about money-related matters. From our debt stock and what it's doing to even the cedi, and then contractors feeding into that. Because the claim is that, oh, the cedi is suffering and partly because of some of the payments we've made. The contractors are asking who has been paid. But then it brings me to the next issue. And I always am passionate about these issues. You know why? Because I've been on scholarships, stayed out. By the way, it's not any of these scholarships you know of. It's a scholarship where I had no hand in. I was at the University of Ghana reading a certain language. If you are one of the top students, you get picked. You don't even know. There's nothing. All you do is it's your exams and the scores you've been getting. So don't get it twisted. And I was taken to Cuba for a year. Trust me, even there, where they paid for, so the Cuban government was supporting your accommodation and our government would pay some others and then give you your stipends. The Cuban government was basically doing everything. So it was a bit of a different situation. Even there, the cost of living and everything, if your stipends did not come, and a few times it did not, trust me, it was difficult. There were times where someone would come to you for a loan and then when they get, it wasn't easy. So imagine in this instance, our brothers and sisters in Morocco on scholarship, who don't have some of these perks from the checks I have conducted. Rent and others. Let's get into it. So for 10 months, can you imagine being out there on scholarship? And for 10 months, what is due you has not come. Can you imagine the situation, the plight of our brothers and sisters? Don't do politics. Put yourself in their shoes. How would you feel? How would you feel? If ours didn't come for a month or a month and a half or two, it was chaotic. 10 months. Let's go to the next slide. And here are some quotes from some of them. The question is, how do we survive? Our landlords are chasing us out of our apartments. Some of us are sleeping with our friends, and some are sleeping outside. If you've never been chased out for rent before, you may not understand this picture, but this is not a place you want to be, especially not in some of these countries. And if I've been through Casablanca before, I'm not going to say anything, but trust me, you don't want to face some of these situations in some parts of even Africa. Trust me, you don't. Next slide. Another quote. Imagine sending your daughter to another country to come and study for 10 months without sending her money to pay for her rent. How do you want her to survive? These are all quotes from the students, okay? There are people in debt and some are depressed. We had someone almost committing suicide. Next slide. There's more. This one says, it is not our fault. We were sent to this place by the government on a scholarship. Brilliant but needy students. It has been more than 10 months. Our lives are in danger. We are begging you wherever you are, Mr. President. If you don't come in, there will be blood on your hands. This one really struck me. Mr. President, if you're watching, and I hear you watch a lot, if you're listening, not for me, I'm not asking you to do it for me. Our brothers and sisters in Morocco are bleeding. They are hemorrhaging. They need your help. I'm doing this because I have been in this situation before. It is not funny. If you've not been there, you may think, but if you've been there before, you will understand. It's not a joke, please. Whatever we must do for them, let's do. And there's a final one that segues into my last slide. Let's go to the next slide, and you will understand why. A lady in Morocco, one of them says, we are pleading with the government of Ghana to come to our aid. As ladies here in this country, we are not even able to afford the basic needs, sanitary pads. And the worst of all is your parents will send you money, and when it gets here, it's nothing. Because they're already in debt and everything. So even the little, can you imagine this? Your child is on scholarship in a faraway country. You're expecting that at least they will be taken care of and all of that. Then you now have to send money. Your child, a lady, can't buy sanitary pads. My last slide will talk about exactly that. The increase in sanitary pad prices, even here in Ghana. You know, recently we celebrated World Menstrual Hygiene Day, right? I just want us to take a look at this. While in the last budget, the taxes on these products were taken off, the components were taken off. Because of the free fall of the cedi, the gains have been eroded. Just go out there, anywhere, and check out the prices of these pads. You will be shocked. And I keep saying that for me, out of charity, for some select people, sometimes I buy for them for free. So I know these prices. Mind-boggling. We need to deal with the economic situation so these things are not so expensive. Look at it. The cedi keeps depreciating. It has impacted importation costs and then higher sanitary pad prices on the market, posing a burden on our young ladies who already, some of them are using rags, some of them are using all kinds of things that are unhygienic, would likely give them health issues. This country, God help us. My name is Benjamin Akako. These are my blunt thoughts shared with you, raw, hot, and edited undiluted. Always I pray, God bless Ghana. God give us great leaders and make our country great and strong.